New findings released on the situation of people in need in the city. Explosion in a hot pot shop in Wan Chai injures 3 people. Former U.S. President pleads not guilty in Washington court. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The Legislative Council Secretariat has released a research report on the characteristics of low and lower middle income households, hoping to understand the challenges facing families in need. The report shows the proportion of economically inactive or unemployed families doubled over the past 25 years. Mimo Singai reports.
As the government hopes to offer more support to people in need, it focuses on 3 groups for targeted poverty alleviation: all elderly households, single-parent households, and subdivided unit households. To understand the circumstances and difficulties facing the low-income and lower-middle-income households in the city, the government collected data on household characteristics from the 2021 population census and compared it with statistics of the past 25 years. The result suggests over 334 and 300,000 households have a monthly income below $10,000, 160,000 families more than in 1996. Among low-income households, the proportion of unemployed families doubled over the past 25 years, from 33.8% to 74.1% in 2021. Meanwhile, among low-income households with non-elderly members, the number of economically inactive households tripled from 50,000 to 157,000. The report points out the sum of government expenditure on recurring cash benefits increased notably over the past 25 years. Lawmaker Rebecca Chen, who is a former member of the Commission on Poverty, said authorities should investigate the reasons behind those unemployed. She added government benefits should be provided to people with acute needs. Mimo Singai, TVB News.
The Indonesian government is planning to roll out a new rule requiring employers to shoulder all agency fees when hiring Indonesian domestic helpers. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Chris Sun said he has expressed concerns to the Indonesian government on the matter. The labor chief said a meeting will be set up with the Indonesian Consul General in Hong Kong. He said that any change to the rules should not heap extra burden on local employers and also shouldn't affect Indonesian helpers' work opportunities in Hong Kong. Earlier, Indonesia tried to push for similar measures in Taiwan and Singapore. The measures didn't get the go-ahead after opposition from Taiwan and Singaporean governments. Under the planned new measure, Hong Kong employers might need to fork out more than $20,000, up from the previous $12,000 to $18,000. An explosion from a tabletop gas stove in a restaurant in Wan Chai injured 3 people today. Experts believe the blast was likely caused by the residual gas leakage of a near-empty gas canister. Jackie Lin reports.
The blast allegedly involved this cassette gas stove. A butane gas cylinder on the table is seen broken alongside a site of disarray. This explosion happened at one of the branches of a hot pot restaurant chain at around 1 p.m. on Jeff Road, Wan Chai. 2 diners aged 20 and 24 at the table injured their hand, chest, and neck. Another female diner nearby also experienced ringing in her ear. The injured have been sent to Ratanji Hospital for treatment. Police investigations are now underway as to what caused the blast. Officers from the Electrical and Mechanical Services Department and the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department were also at the scene and took away gas stoves from the eatery. Last year, a similar explosion accident too at a hot pot restaurant in Ipe Square, Chunwan. 2 female patrons sustained facial injuries. Gas and engineering expert Louis Cito believes the gas cylinder involved this time might appear near empty, but the explosion could be caused by its residual gas and sparked by cooking fire on the stove.
Though the bottle gas is finished, the fire is not light up, but if the gas still leaking together with the nearby oxygen, there will be a flash fire and it will generate the explosion.
Sito reminds the public to take extra precautions when using such gas stoves, especially when changing the canisters. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
The 4-day Hong Kong Brands and Products Shopping Festival was launched at the Asia World Expo on Lantau Island today. There are over 300 booths at the venue. Sausages, desserts, and snacks. Many people flocked to the festival today to enjoy international food from 20 hot food stalls. The first time visitors have been able to do so since the pandemic. The organizer, the Chinese Manufacturers Association of Hong Kong, believes the event can attract around over 50,000 visitors this year. Overseas, a defiant Donald Trump said it was a sad day for America. The former U.S. president left Washington after pleading not guilty to charges he orchestrated a plot to try to overturn his 2020 election defeat. He appeared in person at court in a hearing that took about an hour. David Garrett reports.
After pleading not guilty to plotting to overturn the 2020 presidential election, preparing to fly back home in his private jet, the former President Donald Trump remained defiant.
Thank you very much. This is a very sad day for America, and it was also very sad driving through Washington, D.C. and seeing the filth and the decay and all of the broken buildings and walls and the graffiti. This is not the place that I left. It's a very sad thing to see it. When you look at what's happening, this is a persecution of a political opponent. This was never supposed to happen in America.
Earlier, Trump came down to earth with a bump, but is still flying high in the polls. The former president descended the steps before making the short drive to the court in Washington. There he would face a judge and charges including conspiracy to defraud the country and depriving citizens of the right to have their vote counted. Security was tight with supporters and opponents of Trump gathering for a glimpse of the 77-year-old. It was not far from where the US Capitol riots took place on the 6th of January 2021. The riots are central to the prosecution case. Congress was stormed and around 1,000 defendants have already appeared at this same courthouse. The 45th president had been on social media predicting he would win next year's election and blaming Joe Biden for concocted charges. Inside the court, Trump pleaded not guilty, emphasising the first word to the 4 charges. Jack Smith, the special counsel leading the prosecution, was there. This AP reporter was also inside.
Trump came in a few minutes after Smith. He appeared to look in Smith's direction, but was looking across the gallery. At one point, he appeared to mouth the word hi to somebody in the gallery. Smith was talking to someone on his right for much of the hearing, or much of the court before the hearing began. He was whispering to the person and often turning to the left in the direction of the former president.
The US is still split over Trump. Some love him, others loathe him.
I believe that President Trump is the only leader who can make America great again, and so I think true justice would be restoring him back into the White House.
I think justice would be in a fair verdict, and I think that requires jail time.
Trump is also facing charges in New York for hush money paid to Stormy Daniels and other felonies in Florida for retaining classified documents. David Garrett, TVB News.
2 U.S. Navy sailors have been charged with providing sensitive military information to China. The pair, both based in California, were charged with similar moves to provide sensitive intelligence to Beijing. Jin Chao-wei, a 22-year-old sailor assigned to the San Diego-based USS Essex, was arrested on Wednesday while boarding the ship. He's accused of passing detailed information on the weapons systems and aircraft aboard the Essex. The Justice Department also charged 26-year-old sailor Wenheng Zhao with conspiring to collect nearly $15,000 in bribes from a Chinese intelligence officer. This allegedly in exchange for U.S. naval exercise plans, operational orders, and photos and videos of electrical systems at Navy facilities. Wei and Zhao pleaded not guilty to the charges. South Korean police detained a man suspected of stabbing a high school teacher with a knife in the city of Daejeon. The stabbing follows a separate attack on Thursday in which 14 people were wounded near a busy subway station in Seongnam. Officials at the Daejeon Metropolitan Police Agency did not immediately release the personal details of the suspect in the Friday morning attack on the teacher at Songcheon High School, describing him only as a man in his late 20s. According to police, the suspect waited for the teacher to step out of a classroom. The suspect then stabbed him and fled the scene, which, according to officials, suggests they were acquaintances. Authorities did not specify the teacher's condition. The attack in Daejeon came hours after South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol called for ultra-strong law enforcement measures to restore faith in public safety after Thursday's violence. Still ahead, Typhoon Kanon's Uturn raises new alerts. Australia welcomes China's decision to lift tariff on barley. Ousted leader of Niger pleads for help in Washington Post. Welcome back. Powerful Typhoon Kanon has made a U-turn and is moving back east to Japan's southwestern islands after wreaking havoc in the region this week. The Japanese islands and part of the mainland are now on alert. Tracy Furness has more.
Cleanup from damage left by Typhoon Kanon began in Japan's popular tourist destination of Okinawa Prefecture on Thursday. Traffic lights were still without power. But operations started to resume at the prefectural capital Naha's airport. It was packed with passengers stranded since earlier this week. 26 of the 80 Hong Kong travellers that had been stuck in Okinawa since Wednesday flew home on Thursday. The rest of the group are believed to be leaving today. But the meteorological agency said Friday that Typhoon Kanon has made a U-turn and is heading back to Japan's most southern islands from Taiwan. Kanon has sustained surface winds of 126 kilometers per hour with higher gusts on Friday afternoon. Up to 15 centimeters of rain is expected in the Okinawa region by Saturday and up to 30 centimeters in the Amami region, an island group belonging to the southern main islands of Kyushu, by Sunday. The winds had been stronger when Kanon crossed Japan's southern islands Tuesday at 180 kilometers an hour, knocking out power in 220,000 homes. Kanon's reversal has taken it away from China, where rain from an earlier typhoon caused severe flooding this week around Beijing. But on the mainland's east coast, Zhejiang province has taken precautionary measures, such as activating emergency responses and deploying work teams to assist in local efforts to combat the powerful Typhoon Kanon. As of Thursday, 156 passenger ferry routes had been suspended, and all passenger ferry services in the cities of Ningbo, Wenzhou and Taizhou have been halted. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
China has lifted a tariff that has been in place on Australian barley for 3 years. The new measures come into effect tomorrow and should see a surge in trade.
We have been notified that China will remove the 80.5% anti-dumping and countervailing duties on Australian barley as of tomorrow, the 5th of August. This is the right outcome. The right outcome for Australian producers and the right outcome for Chinese consumers.
Beijing had placed an 80% tariff on Australian barley in 2020 after a diplomatic row erupted over the origins of COVID. Prior to the restrictions, imports of Australian grain amounted to about $600 million a year. The Australian government hopes trade barriers on Australian wine will be lifted next. Niger's military junta says it is severing military agreements with France, its former colonial ruler, and has fired some of the previous government's key ambassadors. This comes as detained President Bazoum issued a plea for help to the international community through an opinion piece in the Washington Post. Daniel Rao reports.
Niger's junta has revoked a raft of military cooperation agreements with France dating from between 1977 and 2020. France has between 1,000 and 1,500 troops in Niger, helping to fight an insurgency by groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State that has destabilized West Africa's Sahel region. Following last week's coup that ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, Niger's regional and Western partners, including France, have imposed sweeping sanctions. This in an effort to pressure the coup leaders to restore constitutional order. Meanwhile, ousted President Bazoum issued a plea for help to the international community. Writing in the Washington Post, Bazoum said the coup launched against his government by a faction in the military on July 26th has no justification. He said if the coup succeeds, it will have devastating consequences for the country, region, and entire world. Bazoum, who wrote the opinion piece as a hostage, called on the US government and the entire international community to help restore constitutional order. US National Security Council spokesman John Kirby reiterated Washington's commitment to defending democracy in Niger while calling for the release of President Bazoum.
Niger is facing a grave challenge to its democracy, and at this critical moment, the United States stands and will continue to stand with the people of Niger. And we continue to call for the safe release of President Bazoum and his family.
The Economic Community of West African States regional bloc is hoping to secure a conclusive and amicable resolution to the crisis. The bloc set the junta a Sunday deadline to release and reinstate President Bazoum or face possible force. However, junta leader Abdurrahman Tiani, the former leader of Niger's presidential guard, has no plans to back down. Dan Orell, TVB News.
A New York City train derailed, leaving at least 13 people injured. 8 cars came off the line. There were about 100 people aboard the Long Island service when it left the tracks east of the Jamaica station in the borough of Queens. People said it felt like bad airplane turbulence, but was much noisier. It's been a very hot summer globally. In Chicago, some people are trying to beat the heat by taking a swim with up to a few thousand friends. A warning, this may not always be an appropriate or safe thing to do. This report from NBC News.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
When it comes to morning coffee, Chicago does things differently. Welcome to Friday Morning Swim Club. Around 7 a.m. on summer Fridays, hundreds of strangers grab free cold brew and a quick dip in Lake Michigan.
There's no agenda, there's no expectations. Anyone can come.
Friends Andrew Glatt and Nicole Novotny started the group by accident with weekly swims in 2021.
Let's just put our phones down, connect, catch up.
They invited friends. Then their friends brought friends.
Go!
And pretty soon,
3, 2, 1.
people were showing up by the thousands.
We come every Friday.
Any regrets now that you've done it?
Definitely not.
Even when the weather isn't ideal, hundreds of people still showing up early on the Chicago lakefront in the morning. Dozens taking things a step further, making a splash.
We met first-timers,
Exhilarating.
Yeah. Frequent floaters,
We left our house at 6 in the morning.
Worth it?
Yes.
and fast friends turned best friends.
Where did you meet? I would say there.
This is the largest group of people with the best vibes, the most positive attitude.
Creating community with simple summer fun. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News, Chicago.
Back locally, starting on Sunday, the free flow toll system, Hong Kong e-toll, will be implemented at the Western Harbor Crossing. From 10 p.m. on Saturday, a speed limit on the West Kowloon Highway towards Hong Kong Island will be reduced to 70 kilometers per hour, while a speed limit of 50 kilometers per hour will be imposed on drivers near the Olympian City 1 and beyond. Meanwhile, Transport Commissioner Rosanna Law said the 633 fixed toll scheme has achieved a relatively positive effect at the 3 cross-harbor road tunnels since it was launched. Starting today, residents can visit the Happy Hong Kong Bazaar held at the Science Park. The event features innovative products and science workshops as event organizers hope to increase the city's interest in the STEM field and innovation. Timothy Lee tells us more.
A driving arcade machine built with the dashboard of a real car. 3D printing machines capable of creating items of all shapes and sizes. These are just some of the perks visitors to the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Corporation Happy Hong Kong Bazaar will be able to access. Starting from today until the 13th of this month, residents can visit a variety of facilities, restaurants, and workshops catering to both children and adults. Officials such as Financial Secretary Paul Chan attended the opening ceremony of the Science Lovers Festival. Exhibitors from around 60 HKSP park companies also introduced some of their newest creations to the public, many focusing on green technology. Some exhibitors shared some of these innovative products.
We provide and develop the waterless, naturally derived personal and household cleaning powder refill. And our product is just a powder form, and it remove the main ingredient extra of any cleaning product. So it's only 2% rate of the normal product. You can save the 98% transportation carbon emission.
Our product aims to cut the spreading of bacteria in the community. So we work with government to tailor-make some covering of the handles and places where many people will contact, so yeah, to prevent the spread of the disease.
Those shopping at the Science Park Bazaar can make purchases with HKSP Pay's Palm Vein Scanner system, the first such payment system in the city. Event organizers remind residents they must first make registrations before paying with their hands. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.